Everything you need to know about the Starcraft Miniatures game in this little bite-sized video. Let's get into it. Transition. So, the Starcraft Miniatures game is a tabletop miniatures game made by Archon Studios, and it's similar to Warhammer 40k, Star Wars Legion, these big mass-scale tabletop war games. We'll have a look at some of the miniatures. You'll see the Terran we have on the screen at the minute, and you're going to see some Marines, Marauders, Medics, Jim Raynor, a Goliath. And the cool thing about all these miniatures is that they're coming on hard plastic sprues, which you'll cut out, glue together, paint. They're 32 millimeters, so they're a bigger, more heroic scale, which makes for some cool painting, and they're going to look sick on the table, as you can see in these pictures. We got the Zerg here. There's Zerglings, Roaches, Queens. You can see some creep tumors here as well, and a big old Nidus worm. The Kerrigan has been announced. She'll be coming on as a separate model, and with a Nidus worm. So you can see they're hitting all the iconic models. We've got Protoss, Zealots, Stalkers, Sentries with their little force fields. And another thing you'll see in these pictures too is the good use of clear, transparent sprues. For a lot of you can see on the Medics in the previous picture, we've got these green, translucent sprues that you can, for like the medic beams and stuff on their shield. So you can just leave them as they are. The force fields are this nice blue, which is awesome. It means you don't have to paint them. They already look like medic healing stuff. Oh, there's a pylon there too, that's sick. So how does the game actually play? Yeah, the miniatures look cool, but how do they move around the table? Well, this is a very traditional war game where you'll move through your different phases, the movement phase, assault phase, close combat phase, and within those phases you'll be alternating activations, which is really cool. We prefer games on this channel where you can have alternating activations, so you don't have your full army on the table, your opponent has their full turn, you're waiting 45 minutes, and then at the end all your stuff's dead. That's not going to happen in this game because of alternating activations, but also because not all of your things start on the table. This game has an interesting supply mechanic, and you'll notice a lot of their mechanics are taken from the core values of the Starcraft computer game or video game. And one of them is the supply and the way they use supply. So you'll start with a smaller force on the table, and half of your supply is going to start off the table. As things die, you can bring in reinforcements, and as the turns go on, your supply increases, so you can bring more stuff onto the table. So you actually get to pick and respond to what your opponent has on the table based on how much supply you've got and what models you have in reserves. So that's a really cool feature. So, okay, models are cool, game sounds all right. How do you build a list? Like, what does an actual army look like? Well, the good news is they're going to have a free app where you can go through and build your list. Again, in a traditional wargaming sense where you have, say, 2,000 points, which is the example they've given in all the information they've put out online. And you'll be able to use the points of the models to build your lists. You'll see a sample list here. This is from a while ago, so this isn't currently relevant. And all the information in this video as well is subject to change, because they're still in the production cycle, they're still figuring things out. Even the rules that we'll mention may have minor tweaks. 80% of what you see in this video, what I talk about, will stay the same, but there's gonna be some changes like the points that you see on the screen now. But this is how you'll build your list. You'll pick your units, they'll have points associated with them, and if you wanna take upgrades, you can choose those based on the units, pay for all your points. Then, say you have a 2,000 point list, you get 10% of those points to use on buildings. So you would get 200 points to build barracks or lairs, spawning pool, and these different buildings will give you in-game effects that you can use or upgrades to your models. Okay, so let's look at the anatomy of a card. Here's a card on the screen that is a Hydralisk from the Zerg forces, and there's a lot of information on this card. I'm going to take you through it real quick and what it means currently. Obviously, you've got the stats across the top here, and left to right, we've got speed. That's how many inches your thing will move on the table. So you'll measure 4 inches, and that's how far this Hydralisk can move. Movement in this game is really cool. You actually just have a leader unit, a leader model within your unit. It moves, and then you just grab the rest of your unit and put it wholly within 3 inches of that leader unit. So you're actually just moving one model, measuring for one model, and putting everything within 3 inches. Most people go, oh, but then you get all these, or you get up to 3 inches of extra movement in theory then. That's all accounted for. That's why this Hydralisk only moves 4 inches, because they know when you put the rest of the Hydralisks around it, you're going to get free movement. It's got an evade and an armor save there. That's what you need on a D6 dice to be able to save some of the hits that you take. So a 5+ evade and a 5+ armor. You don't get both of those. It's either or depending on the game situation. You'll see the Hydralisk has 4 wounds, and you'll see it's size 2. Now, unlike other games, when you nominate wounds, you're not doing it to a single model. You're actually just doing it to the whole unit. Once you meet this threshold, say this 4 wounds, you take the 4 wounds off and you remove a model. So it's quite simple. That's size 2. This game uses sizes to determine line of sight. So your terrain will either be size 1, 2, 3, or 4, and your models obviously anywhere between size 1 and 4 as well. And that's how you know, can this model actually see over this terrain? It doesn't use true line of sight like other games where there's room for like, can you actually see that? There's the awkward discussion you have to have with your opponents. This eliminates all that. Size 2 cannot see over size 2 or size 3, 4. And you'll see over here on the right, we have the squad size and the supply. The white numbers is how much supply for how many models. So as you can see, it's going to cost us 2 supply for a squad size of 2 models. Then you'll see the red numbers correspond with each other, so 3 supply for 4 models. The supply isn't relevant when list building as much as it is how you determine how much reinforcements you can bring onto the table in a turn. You'll see the special abilities here. The ones with little up arrows are things that you have to buy as upgrades or your unit doesn't have it. The rest of the stuff this particular unit comes with. And you've got your very traditional way of determining how to use your weapons. You've got a range of 12 inches on this needle spine. The rate of attacks is 3, which means you roll 3 dice. The hit of a 3+ means you need 3 or higher on your D6 rolls, and each hit does a damage of 2, and there's some special abilities like Surge, which means it does extra damage against light and armored units. Okay, some stuff that was released or sort of announced and talked about on an AMA that happened mere hours before recording this. Got up extra early this morning, made a coffee, tuned in for the AMA with Archon Studios, and they mentioned a lot of stuff that I've just talked about, but also the starter sets and what's included in them. So there's going to be a starter set that's Terran versus Zerg. It's going to come with 2 lots of 6 Marines, a couple medics, and a couple Marauders. The Zerg will come with 24 little Zerglings. It's going to come with a Queen and 3 Roaches. All of that's going to be in a box with a little bit of terrain to get you started and possibly a map. They're still fine-tuning that for about 160 USD. So that's a great entry price. I was looking at all the information we could gather, and those aren't full-sized armies. I would say that's a half-sized army, about 1,000 points with all the upgrades and stuff. So it's a great intro to the game, and I think the expectation is that you'll buy the starter set, play it a couple times, and then get a feel for what extra units you want to buy. All the units are going to come with their little stat cards in the box and everything that you need in there, so that's cool. And they also mentioned that Protoss will be released as well, day 1 with the starter set, but they'll have their own little army box that will have sentries, zealots, and adepts. So that's everything we know so far. There's lots of little information they really broke down. You can go check out the AMA if you want exact actions that you can perform in each phase of the game if you want to get a great feel for how the game actually flows and plays. The thing I'm most excited for is how well the creator of Archon Studios and the team in charge of this know StarCraft and love StarCraft, because passion isn't something you can fix up in the production process. So I'm excited to see how well they know it. They're mentioning little unique characters and things that I haven't heard of in years from like Brood War. So they're really, in fact, even the name Archon Studios, they named themselves after the Archon in StarCraft. So this was always something that they'd hoped to achieve. It's finally happened, and they've mentioned that with all the stuff that they've got on the table in front of them, the spreadsheets of all the possible releases and things that they hope to do, there's a 9-year plan for this game. So they're all in on this. This is their big ticket. So they're excited about it, which excites people like us who want to see people who love the game make the games that we love. So make no mistake, war is coming with all its glory and all its horror. And to that we say, hell, it's about time.